Hey! So I'm going to be filming a book haul today, and I feel like I say this at the beginning of every book haul, but I am particularly excited about this book haul because honestly the books are a whole new level and I'm just so excited to talk about them with you all and show you and everything. And yeah, so as always I separate my book hauls into different categories. So the first category is Book of the Month books, and this video is sponsored by Book of the Month. So I'm sure you've heard of me talk about them before, but if you don't know, Book of the Month is a super popular and fast growing online book service for readers. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and help readers discover new books that they love. So basically how it works is every month their team vets hundreds of books and then gives readers their choice from a curated selection of new and early release book titles. So this means that their team is putting in the work to find the amazing books, and you can spend less time researching and more time reading. Book of the Month is risk-free, so if you're not really feeling any of their picks that month, you can easily skip that month without getting charged. At the moment, Book of the Month only ship to US shipping addresses, but they have the best price for new release hardcover fiction on the market. And you can get your first book for just $9.99 by going to bookofthemonth.com and using my code bookswithchloe. So that is such a steal. So now I'm going to show you all their November books. So these are all the books that you could choose from this month. So the November romance pick is How to Marry Keanu Reeves in 90 Days. How fun is this cover? I absolutely love it. It just seems like a fun road trip romance type set in New York. So basically this follows Bethany, and she is obsessed with Keanu Reeves, who is getting married in 90 days, and she has to convince him to marry her instead. The November thriller pick is The Collective. Obviously stunning classic thriller vibes on the cover. And basically this follows a mother who, after 5 years of grieving her daughter's death, she's still obsessed with getting justice on the person she thinks is responsible for her daughter's death. So this definitely intrigues me. The historical fiction pick is The Family, and this is a debut novel, and this supposedly offers a fresh take on old New York, the American dream, and what it means to inherit the wounds of past generations. 2 daughters, 2 families, 1 inescapable fate. Then we have The Keeper of Night, which I'm so excited about. This is actually one of my most anticipated releases of the year. This is YA fantasy and it sounds incredible. We basically follow Ren, who is half British Reaper, half Japanese Shinigami, and she has been collecting souls in the London streets for centuries. Like, thank you, thank you. Lastly, we have A Little Hope, and this is the contemporary fiction pick. And basically this is set in an idyllic Connecticut town. And basically this follows the people of the town. And it's supposed to celebrate the importance of small moments of connection, which I absolutely love. I honestly love stories that don't really have a huge plot. It's just about living and the smaller moments of life. Very excited. If I had to choose only one of these, I think I would go with The Keeper of Night because, like I said, this is one of my most anticipated releases of the year and it's supposed to be amazing, and I just love Asian inspired fantasy, specifically Japanese inspired fantasy, so yeah. Book of the Month also have add-ons. So for this month the add-ons are Will by Will Smith, as well as My Body by Emily Ratajkowski. And basically this is her take on our culture's commodification of women. So very excited for this. So you can get any of these books for just $9.99 by going to bookofthemonth.com and using my code bookswithchloe. Thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video and for sending me those books. I'm very excited about them. And now let's move on to the next category, which is actually just kind of like a mix of things. So let's get into it. So the first is Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder. I am very excited for this because I saw this cover and I was like, what the hell? That looks amazing. So the cover immediately drew me in, and then I was talking to Caitlin about it, and Caitlin said that it's supposed to have similar vibes to Bunny, which I recently realized is probably my favorite book of all time. Not looking that in for sure, but probably. So I believe it's supposed to have horror comedy vibes. It says it's graceful, funny, and unnerving as hell. Don't really know what it's about, to be honest. And I don't really want to know what it's about because I just want to kind of go in blind, and I'm sure it's just gonna be a weird, fun time. So thank you. Next I have Luster by Raven Leilani. And first of all, this cover, really gorgeous. And I actually heard about this through Momo. She said that this was one of her favorite books of the year, and I was like, oh. And then I looked more into it and it sounds stunning. This is supposed to be a funny book about what it means to be young now. So just navigating life. I believe it also has some racial commentary, what it's like to be a woman, etc. So very excited. Then I got 2 Carmen Maria Machado books. So I got Her Body and Other Parties and In the Dream House. I've particularly been excited for In the Dream House for years, and then I saw that there were these 2 matching editions of the 2 books, and I was like, I think I'm gonna get them. And I believe this discusses domestic abuse, and it's supposed to be a really unique memoir, and I've heard that it's really hard to read, but it's really beautiful and really well done. So I've always been intrigued by this, like I said, and just very excited for it. And then Her Body and Other Parties. This is supposed to be a genre-bending collection of short stories, and I love genre-bending fiction, so once again, I'm very excited for this and I've heard really great things. Then I talked about this briefly in my recent vlog, but I got The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Mariana Enriquez. And I got some comments saying that Mariana Enriquez is the queen of horror and she's an Argentinian author. And I'd never heard of her before, so if she's the queen of horror, no offense, I need to get on it obviously. And this is supposed to be a collection of weird horror short stories, so stunning. And the cover, literally beautiful. Thank you. Then I got Censor by Junji Ito, which is Junji Ito's newest release. If you don't know by now, like, I love Junji Ito. He is the king of horror manga and I just love his art style. He's an author by author for me, so I don't even know what this is about, but I just always enjoy his stories. He has such a weird mind and I don't know how he comes up with these things, but I love it. And I do love this edition too because it's quite stunning on the end pages. And look at this fun little art on the reverse of the dust jacket. Very stunning. Then I got The View Was Exhausting and I saw this in the bookstore and the cover drew me in, and then I read what's on the back of it and I was like, this sounds amazing. Basically, this is a Hollywood love story, but the main character is a woman of color. So it focuses specifically on how much Hollywood demands perfection, especially from women of color. So I was like, wow, because I love like Hollywood stories, and yet the cover, like, that is something. That green is really stunning, honestly, like green vibes right now obviously, and it's blurbed by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it did give me Taylor Jenkins Reid vibes, like kind of Seven Husband vibes, obviously with like the Hollywood story and stuff. Obviously I love that book, so hopefully I love this one too. Then I got Never Have I Ever by Isabel Yap, and I actually talked about this in my most anticipated releases video that I posted at the beginning of the year, and obviously it's out now and I bought it. I'm very excited. I believe it's independently published. This is basically spells and stories, urban legends and immigrant tales, and basically this has 13 short stories and they're fantasy slash horror slash sci-fi stories, so thank you. Then I bought Normal People, the scripts. Now, obviously, you should know by now, if you're on my channel, that I love Normal People by Sally Rooney. Love the show, literally stunning. I do love the book slightly more, but the show is a stunning, near perfect adaptation of the book. And Caitlin has this, and it's beautiful. When she showed me on FaceTime, I was like, ow! Ever since she showed me, I was like, I got my eye on you, and it was finally time for me to get it. And it is beautiful. Wow. It basically just has the scripts for each episode, and it also has really beautiful photos throughout, full color, and I just love it. I love them. Like, and me and Caitlin are planning to read this together one day, so that will be stunning, and in the meantime it will be a stunning item for me to put near my TV on one of the bookshelves, and just very happy to have this. Then another Caitlin influence is Ariadne. Caitlin read this recently and she gave it 5 stars. She absolutely loved it, and she was like, no offense, you need to get it because she thinks that I'm gonna love it, and based on what she's told me about it, I agree. So basically this follows Ariadne, and I don't really know much about Ariadne because, like I said in my vlog where I read the Song of Achilles, I'm not fully familiar with Greek mythology, but obviously I loved the Song of Achilles, so I am excited to read more Greek mythology retellings and stuff. And this is supposed to really be a woman-focused story. Caitlin said she cried honestly just because of how much women are celebrated in this story and how like women are so connected, and like obviously I want to read any women-focused story, and it's supposed to have absolutely beautiful writing. Caitlin did read me some quotes on FaceTime and they were breathtaking, so you know I'm a sucker for beautiful writing, stories about women, so that's what it is. Then Macmillan sent me If You Lived Here You'd Be Famous by Now, and this is True Stories from Calabasas. And when they first contacted me about this, I was like, oh, that definitely sounds interesting. I love stories that talk about like privilege, and this is about how if you live in Calabasas, it's quite easy to become famous. Not easy, but you know what I mean. And I love stories that talk about society's obsession with like famous people and stuff, so honestly, I'm very excited to read this. Then we have Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, and I was supposed to read this in October, but I didn't have time unfortunately, but I definitely need to read it because I absolutely love the movie. It's disgusting that I haven't read the book. Like, I know I'm gonna love it. What's that about? So I'm happy to finally own it and to finally read it because it's a classic, you know. Speaking of classiques, I'm gonna show you some new classics that I've bought, as well as some poetry and stuff. I got Carmilla, which is obviously like the OG vampire story, and it's supposed to have 2 women in love, vampire girlfriends. Thank you. Although I did see some comments saying that they were disappointed because it's not really like focused on the romance. I believe it's like hinted at. And honestly, this edition is just beautiful. Like, look at that. Stunning display piece. The red foiling. Thank you. Then I got the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition of Pride and Prejudice because I really want to read this soon. And I do already own a different version of Pride and Prejudice, but I'm thinking to sell that one because I prefer this one and I'm hopefully gonna love it. So I'm gonna annotate and stuff. Like, I've watched the movie and I love the movie, so I assume I'm gonna love the book. I just adore this edition. Like, look at that cover. The Penguin Classics Deluxe editions are definitely some of my favorites. Like the back as well, it has the deckled edges, and like, just look at that. Then Caitlin recently read The Bloody Chamber and she absolutely loved it, and she told me how, one, she thinks I'm gonna love it, two, she can see how it must have inspired A Diary of Blood, which I read this year and absolutely loved. So no offense, like, thank you. And it's supposed to be like retellings of classic fairy tales with like a dark, sensual, fantastical twist. So, you know, stories like Red Riding Hood, Beauty and the Beast. So I love that. Very excited to read this. And I actually bought this first. It was like a really cheap paperback. And then when I went to the bookstore, I saw this edition and I was like, wow, that is beautiful. Like, look at this. You know, I love these colors, like white, black, red, grey. Thank you. Look at the back as well. It says, his wedding gift clasped around my throat. I choco rubies 2 inches wide, like an extraordinarily precious slit throat. Oh my gosh, and the end papers. Then I finally bought Rebecca, and I have been wanting to read this for years. I remember Hannah from A Clockwork Reader saying that she recommends this to people even if you're not really into classics. And I believe it's like a thriller and it's supposed to have like gothic vibes and stuff. Anyway, yeah, so I've been meaning to read it for years, and then I feel like I've mentioned Caitlin 20 million times, but she read this last year, I think, and she was like so in it, and she was like, Chloe, you'll love it. And then recently when I asked for classic recommendations, a lot of people also recommended me Rebecca. So I finally got it. And this edition, once again, beautiful. That's the great thing about classics, like there are so many gorgeous editions that you can choose from, which I love, but it's also quite dangerous. Anyway, so yes, this is the 80th anniversary edition. Stunning gold foiling, obviously the white cover. It even has embossing on the naked book of like the R. Now moving on to poetry, I bought Queer Poets of Colour, which is the first major anthology for queer poets of colour. And I have been really getting more into poetry and stuff, so that's why I bought some poetry, obviously. But this caught my eye, one, because of the stunning cover, two, obviously, because I want to support the first major anthology for queer poets of colour. Like, that's stunning. Let me see if there's a short one I can read. If one were to develop a feminist history centering Native women, feminist history in this country would start in 1492 with the resistance to patriarchal colonization. Then I bought the Essential Rumi, and I've been meaning to read poetry by Rumi for a while because my friend Tess absolutely loves Rumi poetry, and they told me to read it, so when I saw it at the bookstore I decided to finally get it, and I am very excited, and she even said that we'll read it together, so absolutely stunning buddy read moment. Then I got the Penguin Book of Romantic Poetry. You know I'm a hopeless romantic and I love this cover, and I was like, yeah. So this is a really thick one, like huge. And I don't really plan to read this like in one go. I think I'm just going to kind of have it on my bedside table and just read a poem or two every now and then when I feel like it. But yeah, very excited to have this in my collection. Now moving on to romance books, I first have Luna and the Light by Mariana Zapata. This is actually my Patreon book club book for this month, so we're all buddy reading it together there on my Patreon. So I filmed a really fun vlog for it and everything, but this is supposed to be Mariana Zapata's slowest burn romance yet, so stunning. I love the way that Mariana Zapata writes slow burn romance, so I'm sure I'm gonna love this, and this is supposed to be one of her best ones, so I just have really high hopes, and I'm actually gonna start it today, so I'm very excited. Then I have The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. Jamie read this recently and loved it, so she definitely got it on my radar, and now it is Caitlin's first buddy read book for her Patreon because she launched her Patreon recently, and I obviously was like, no offense, I'm joining, and I'm really excited to read this with everyone there. So this is supposed to be like a really like funny, light-hearted romance, and it is historical fiction as well. I don't know when it's set, but yeah, it's a fantastical historical romance, and it's supposed to just be really funny. Some of the lines that I heard were really hilarious, so I think this is going to be a really fast and fun read. On the silly goofy theme, I also bought Christmas with a Cowboy, and I bought this recently because I was at the bookstore with Kaz and I saw this and I was like, honestly, like, should I get it? And then I posted on my story, I posted a poll, and I was like, should I get this? Most people said yes, and I honestly think this could be a fun video moment because obviously Christmas is coming up, and I thought I could read this, see if I'm gonna like it. I don't really think I will. Cowboys aren't really my thing. Like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, yes, a cowboy, but I think it could be a silly goofy time, so I'm actually very excited for this. Also, it's set in Ireland. Obviously, Kevin Bestie lives there, so love that. Then I got You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. This follows Poppy and Alex over 12 summers, I believe. So the first summer they spent together, they hate each other and they think they're never going to see each other again. And obviously over the summers, I'm sure they're going to fall in love. So I really love that premise, and hopefully I will love it. And I have seen a lot of people talk about this, especially on like Book Talk. Then of course I have Sally Rooney's newest release, Beautiful Wells, Where Are You? Which is disgusting that I haven't read yet. Like, literally, what is that about? But don't worry, I will be reading it soon. I'm sure I'm going to love this like I love her other two books, and I'm very excited to have this and to read it. And actually this is supposed to be quite different to our other books. This book follows 4 characters and I believe it's like 2 couples following the 2 different stories. So I'm very excited to see what I think. And it's also supposed to be quite smutty, so I'm gonna try to quickly wrap this up because my battery's flashing. But I also got 2 Marina Zapata books. I got Culty and All Reads Lead Here. I've already talked about this a lot because I read it and I needed the physical copy. Absolutely adore this book. This is my favorite Marina Zapata that I've read so far. And Culty, I haven't read it yet, but this is supposedly one of her best ones. And it's another sports romance slow burn vibe, which I love. So yeah, very excited to own this as well. And then I also bought the physical copy of Guarding Temptation by Talia Hibbert, which is a romance novella that I actually read in a previous romance readathon vlog. I read it via Kindle and I loved it, and she released the physical copy, so I was like, I need it for my collection and also to reread in the future because I love this story. It was 5 out of 5 stars for me. But yeah, so those are all the books for this book haul. Thank you so much once again to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. Don't forget you can go to bookofthemonth.com and use my code with Chloe to get your first book for just $9.99. If you're looking for more content from me, I have a Patreon, which is where I upload extra content like extra reading vlogs. We do a monthly live show, we do a monthly buddy read, etc. That is always linked below, as well as my other socials, including my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/gamewithchloe, and that is where I stream games and just chatting. So yeah, I hope you're having a good day and night. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.